I'm DJ Jazzy Joe. Thank you for listening to my music. And welcome to the Kootenay Resilience Festival. Hello. Thanks for coming out on this gray day, but we need the rain, so we can't complain too much. But thanks for coming out, even though it's a little chilly today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathering today on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Sinaiaks people. We honor and respect the Sinaiaks past, present, and future. And we are committed to co-creating with their enduring connection to this land. My name is Joe. My DJ name is Jazzy Joe. I have other names too, like Mom. And I also work as a nurse in Trail in mental health. And so this event today actually means a lot to me, talking about affordable housing. The number one challenge I see working in the field of psychiatry and mental health is that people can't work on their mental health unless they have stable housing. It is a key component to all of our health. Stable housing. So I'm really excited today to hear from the panel of speakers who we've got coming up, who have some solutions for us. Are you guys excited? This is a pretty big topic. Thank you. Affordable housing isn't just a distant dream for me. It's an urgent need. And I have a job, and I have a lot to be grateful for. There are definitely a lot of people worse off than me, but I think most of us can agree it's a struggle to have affordable housing. Am I right? It's getting more and more expensive. So today's event is not just for fun and for music, although that joy is important too. But this is a critical time for planet Earth and for humans. And I'm just so happy that we get to come together and come up with some ideas, I hope, today, to hope some solutions, focus on the solutions. The Kootenay Resilience Festival is not just an event, it's a movement towards a more resilient and regenerative future. We're thrilled to have you here as we explore, discuss, and celebrate the incredible strides being made in our communities and the bioregion towards food security. We had the Food Forum here in June. Local energy, housing is today's topic, as I shared already, and the final one in September is about shared mobility, so transportation. Our focus today is the housing highlight. So engaging with some of the top housing experts in our bioregion, these experts have solutions that directly impact our lives and our community's future. Alongside food, energy, and mobility, we aim to significantly reduce the cost of living to ensure climate resilience for everyone in our bioregion and beyond. Food security ensures that every member of our community has access to local, nutritious, and affordable food, regardless of economic circumstances. Localized energy will guarantee our home's business and people remain safe and secure while reducing costs and the environmental impact. Housing innovation will provide low-cost and climate-resilient living options that meet the needs of all residents. And shared mobility will offer efficient, cost-effective transportation solutions, connecting our communities in more accessible and wonderful ways. These events are like planting a garden for the first time. So bear with us as we experiment. Just like selling your big house and moving into a tiny home, this is an impact festival modeled after others done around the world, where conferences are combined with music and the beautiful Kootenay creatives in a festival for exciting action. We're delighted to present an amazing lineup of speakers and musicians who will share their knowledge, experiences, and creativity with us. Our goal is to dive deep into these important issues, capture all proposed solutions, and invite our communities into ongoing engagement online. This way, the most critical solutions will receive the necessary support to thrive. I know you'll have questions on how, so please bear with us as we unfold this journey together. Here's the format for the rest of the show. Panel 1 will begin shortly and run for 30 minutes. It features inspiring introductions from food professionals and a panel moderated by Jean-Marc Laflamme right here. We had, Jean-Marc from GeoShip Domes and the Kootenay Lake Innovation Center. After that, enjoy an hour of music with Brian Kalbfleisch, Rob Fahie, and Shawn Fisher on ukulele, double bass, and violin. They're a trio. Amazing. We saw them in Nelson recently at the Royal. They're really good. Please stick around for that. After that show will be panel 2 will follow, moderated by Michael Scott from Gerard Station and Kootenay Mountain Culture Magazine. A big round of applause for our amazing speakers and panelists, including Big Calm Tiny Homesteads, Twente Additive Manufacturing, Spearhead, Nelson Tiny Homes, Canadian Tiny Homes, Cover Architecture, North Mountain Construction. Did I get them all? Hope so. Carlos Copen, Nice Cots, and GeoShip Domes. We also want to recognize the housing societies, natural home builders, and many others who are in attendance today. A huge thank you to our sponsors for making this festival possible. Our sponsors include Creative BC, Nelson Kootenay Lake Tourism, Kootenay Co-op, Nelson Credit Union, Boaste, the Langham, Kootenay Lake Innovation Center, and Mountain Culture Group. But this can't grow without your support, so please, could you hit up the donation jars? I believe they're right in front here. And let's not forget to support the food vendors. We've got DM with Feed Your Soul Foods and Kicking Ash, I think, are here. Maybe? Or no? Next time. Yes, thank you, DM, for keeping us well fed. Your food is amazing. And remember, this is more than just a series of talks. It's about making connections and finding inspiration while the music is playing. Take the time to meet each other, ask questions, and discuss ideas about housing solutions and climate resilience. Don't forget to visit our engagement booth. It's over here. And give us your feedback. We'd really love to get your feedback. And you can input it directly into the thought exchange at the booth or get the QR code from the poster.
QR code. Put it in your phone, you can engage.
Thank you. We're also live streaming the event right now through Kootenay Mountain Culture. So a big thanks to Dave Ronald and all his production for making it happen. His assistant Isaiah, amazing team over here. And thank you all for coming. Let's make this festival a home for all innovative solutions and lasting connections. And now let's dive into the conversations that will help shape the future of our communities. It's my pleasure to introduce Jean-Marc Laflamme. And we're just going to take a second to get rid of this DJ gear. The panel will be starting shortly, so please bear with us. Thank you.
Yeah, Jazzy Joe. We can get our first panel up here. Twente, Spearhead, Canadian Tiny Homes. And Big Calm Tiny. Panel, come on up stage. Oh, yeah. Hello, folks in the live stream, near and far. And come on up, guys. Come, step right up here. Hey, we are going to get right rolling in our first panel here. My name is Jean-Marc. I'm from the Kootenay Lake Innovation Center and also GeoShip. We're an automated home building company, and we make all natural, non-toxic homes with one material and two components, which is super cool. We're just getting started this year with manufacturing, and we've got 100 million in pre-orders, so it's going to be a busy next couple of years. I'm super excited to moderate this panel on automation in home building, which is kind of going through a breakthrough moment, and we're really, really lucky to have some great entrepreneurs here that are developing micro homes and systems to do all sorts of different building technologies. So yeah. We got Big Com Tiny Homesteads 2020 Additive Manufacturing 3D printing company, Spearhead, and Canadian Tiny Homes, and they'll each give a little intro about themselves and their companies, and then we can kind of get right into the questions. Okay, let's start with whoever. Who wants to start? There you go.
Hello. Thanks for coming out. Okay. My name's Peter Tranfo. I've been a general contractor building homes in the Nelson area for the past 30 years. Closer? Okay. Is that better? 7 or 8 years ago, I started Canadian Tiny Homes. It's a small family-run business based out of Nelson, and we build tiny homes. We built our first tiny home in 2017, and it was built as a solution to a personal housing need. My daughter, who now works for the business, and her husband, both full-time employees, were unable to find any affordable housing in the Nelson area. But they did have enough resources to build a tiny house, and they had a father who was willing to take on the task of building it. So with my years of home building experience, I took my skill set and refocused my building business to provide affordable housing by building tiny homes. We built our first tiny home in 2017. Just lost my train of thought, excuse me. So, all our tiny homes are custom designed to meet our clients' needs and desires. Our tiny homes are built indoors using wood frame construction and all the latest building science technologies. Our homes are built for four-season living, and they are energy efficient, inexpensive to operate, and with low maintenance requirements. All of our homes incorporate heat pumps to provide heating and cooling, and all of our homes have an HRV system. Recently, we were very fortunate to be recognized by a national organization, Tiny Homes Canada, and they awarded us a first place award for Best Affordable Tiny Home. And we have also recently received some wonderful press by people who have reviewed our tiny homes very favorably. There's a table behind me with copies of those articles and our award and photographs of some of our tiny homes. I invite you to come back and have a look at them. And I also invite you to please follow us on Instagram. Thank you. I look forward to the rest of the day's conversation.
Hey everyone, I'm Steve Hardy of Big Com. Big Com Tiny Homesteads is a permaculture-guided tiny home community just to the west of here in Slocan. in the Slocan Valley. We have 37 beautiful acres in the temperate inland rainforest there, where we are gradually building out a community of fully serviced pads for houses like Canadian Tiny Homes and other builders that are working on very innovative tiny house builds. So far we have a short-term guest rental called the Pocket Getaway. We have 3 rental pads and a range of amenities from garden, greenhouse, trails, laundry, and so on. And we're working towards building out another additional 8 long-term lease pads as well over the next couple of years. My wife Abby and I started Big Calm around 2020, partly to kind of reset our lives, I guess, to be closer to nature. We're both remote workers, so we wanted to balance our screen time a little bit more, build up some of our resilient skills by getting our hands dirty and working manually on certain things, and to build community, to find folks that are also interested in building up resilience in these times of uncertainty and climate change. And so that's what we're really working towards, and trying to find our tribe there, and to really take advantage of all the innovation that's happening in the modular and tiny house space.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Hartwick and I'm a global systems integrator with TAM, or Twente Additive Manufacturing. So if any of you are catching that, what that basically means is we print 3D concrete, and more importantly, we manufacture robots that print 3D concrete. We're not house builders ourselves per se, but our robots are designed to go out and print homes. So what I'd like to kind of go over is just a few basic things. 3DCP is what we shortened concrete printing to. Just a few things that it offers in life. Like, people ask, what can be done with 3D printed concrete? And first and foremost is efficient housing. It's something we started with, it's dear on our heart, is that we have what's called our Telecom Pod series. Our Telecom is our mobile printer that's available. We have it here in the Kootenays, and we sell it globally. It is deployed with 7 homes in it that are called pods, essentially, and they range in square footage from 550 to 2,100 square feet. They are designed with optimizations with 3D printed concrete, where it eliminates extra material, and it's in the minimum number of moves. So these homes can be erected in an incredibly fast time. If you had a slab on grade, we'd be able to pull in a trailer, probably have a 550 square foot house up in a matter of 8 to 16 hours. And it would be ready at that point. After curing, we'd put in walls, roof, conduit would be in. We could bring in have conduit for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical to finish off. And then you do your finishings from there. But it is quite a remarkable product, but it does need national attention, so to get going, and people needing to purchase it. So that's where we're at. But the other things they do is, like, we drop a cost by about 20 to 30% reduction in cost compared to a traditional build. In return, you're also getting a concrete house, which has a durability factor that is unparalleled. As well, we would get better increased thermal qualities. We can build our wall thicknesses to whatever we want just by changing the depth of the interface between the 2 walls, fill it with foam. So your cost of materials is nominal to change wall thickness depending on climate. These designs are attractive, they're unique, they're extremely robust, they'll last generations, and it just makes them a truly unique offering. As well, we have neat things like rapidly deployable buildings that can be printed in a factory, in a shop, deployed in little concrete modules that can be trucked out. They lock together and we can build buildings. In a few hours, we can have a 4-walled building up of various sizes, like using for anything for emergency shelters, pump houses, all the way through to whatever you can imagine 4 walls can do. So there are great cases. We can use it for staircases, so many things, building trusses, footbridges, I mean, any kind of feature, water management. It runs the gamut. You can come up with a need, we can probably print it to fit. The other thing that really comes with 3D printed concrete is architectural freedom. And it doesn't come at a significant cost, because it's the same cost for us to print straight walls, curved walls, or domed. It really opens up the creativity to be able to utilize it in a home. As well, we gain things like not just the thermal conductivity, but noise transmissions, conduit systems, fire resistance. Copy and paste is another term I want to bring up. If we have an effective house design, or somebody comes up with a design that's needed and wants to be deployed everywhere, it's like a printer at home. Once you have a photocopy, you can go take this out to site and just say print, print, print. We're able to mass duplicate homes at a very rapid rate if need be. So those are kind of really neat benefits. We did print a 3D printed home. Canada's first 3D printed home was done in Proctor at our R&D facility. And it's actually a neat little tiny home modeled on the Fibonacci sequence. I don't know if anybody's seen any of the publicity on that in the past. It was completed in 2020. And it's not a habited home, but it was done for us to try out building methods. As we were the first people doing it, of course, it's a learning case. But what ended up happening is it's a Nautilus shelled home, 376 square feet. It's incredible when you get in there. It's silent. Internal reflections aren't there. It's warm. It's cool in the summer. It's just a really unique experience that just kind of gives you a glimpse into what can be done with housing. And we're really just on the cusp of seeing this come into mass production with 3D printed concrete. So I think the awareness now is in the community. It's now reaching the development community, and the builders are starting to say, okay, how are we going to start to integrate this into companies? So I think we're really on the verge of seeing a big breakthrough in this industry, and look forward to talking to anybody that's here and wants to ask more and know more about our stuff. Please stop and talk to me today, and we'll go over some more. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh Hall. I'm with Spearhead. I'm a partner and the director of business development there. Thanks for the opportunity to be a part of this. Really cool to see a local initiative kind of showcasing some of the amazing companies that we have here in the Kootenays, specifically Nelson and Kaslo. It's incredible. A little bit about myself. I studied architecture at UBC. Prior to that, I worked unpaid for 10 years probably at Spearhead, growing up in a family business. But I think it taught me a lot about just the values of the company, and now being in a position where I can help influence that for the future. It was a fantastic experience. My brother and I moved back to Nelson. We're partners in the business now together, and continuing the growth of the company and our progression in the industry. We have about 70 people now out of Nelson, out of our primary facility at 12 Mile. We just recently opened an office on Baker Street, but we're proud to be part of this community. And I think to be able to operate we're a relatively small company, but for Nelson, we're a big company. To be able to operate an organization like this out of a community like Nelson is really incredible, and we do cherish it. There are constraints to it. We are constantly faced with challenges of growing a business in this area, but I think we're approaching it with the integrity of being part of the community and really delivering some precedent-setting projects, we believe, across North America. We can't build houses as fast as Twente, but we can build quite quickly, and I think that's often the reason that we're brought into the residential market. We are working in areas that have constraints associated with them. The value proposition that we bring is we can address risk on a job site, we can address quality, and we can really bring a really sophisticated process which leverages technology but balances craft. We're not a technology focused company. I'd say we are equally craft as we are technology, and it's a bit of an intersection that harnesses the traditional timber frame roots that we have and brings in now these really highly capable 5-axis CNC machines and digital modeling softwares and processes which are pushing the envelope in the construction industry. I wouldn't say we specialize in affordable housing, but we have a process that can be really brought into affordable construction, and we are exploring some really interesting project opportunities right now, partnering with a Japanese architect that won the Pritzker Architectural Prize. We are rebuilding the school systems in Lahaina that burnt in the wildfires, and we're doing that as a way to showcase that it doesn't need to be expensive to have a sophisticated process. And the way that we're approaching that particular project is we're developing the IP and then we're putting it out to market. So essentially we create cut files that other fabricators can use to program their own CNC machines. And I think it's an interesting balance where we can build single-family residences, commercial projects, but also some really community-driven work like that as well. So pleasure to be here, and looking forward to the panel.
All I have to say is, wow, look what we have right here in our region. Pretty much the creme de la creme, I'm not shitting you, of all the technology that we need, plus a super important movement. Like the tiny house movement is the one that really launched the whole parade into a bunch of micro home development prefabs that got famous. So yeah, big powerhouse here in the Kootenays around tiny house communities and building. So I'm just gonna go right into the questions here. So if we have all these technologies and we have all these companies, like what's stopping us? Why don't we have more of it around? That's the real crux of this issue. So the first question is, what are the most significant challenges you've faced in scaling home building systems, whether it's tiny home or automated home building, and how have you overcome them? And what more do we have to do to overcome them?
I got my cheat sheet here, so we'll go off this thing. So first of all, let's get to the thing. What role does automation and AI play in the future of home building? Is that it? Or sorry, which guy were we on? Oh, we're on number 4. Okay, let me get down there. Appreciate that. What are the most significant challenges? There we go. We're on the right page here. All right. So adoption is our biggest challenge right now. Is that there's a heavy reliance and almost exclusively on timber construction in North America right now. We have a propensity to build and rebuild with timber, even in disaster-stricken regions, and that's still dominating the industry. And it's a mentality that would be wonderful to have an alternative to bring change, which we believe we have in our products. We have to rely on international sales in countries that have been quicker to adopt new technologies in construction to succeed currently. We find we've been successful in Japan, where they receive automation and home building a lot quicker than we have been able to jump into that. Even though we're a traditionally timber frame construction society too. You see a lot of that there, but we can incorporate both elements together. And as well, we have exciting developments that are going to be coming out of Japan. I think that'll be pretty exciting to keep eye on, and maybe keep an eye on our blog or Instagram if you're interested in seeing what comes from there. Thank you.
I'd say probably one of the biggest challenges in terms of communities for tiny houses or other modular and prefab houses, you'd probably expect me to say zoning. That is a factor that comes up in a lot of these conversations. But financing is probably the biggest one. We really need to encourage human scale communities. And by human scale, I mean about 15. That's a Dunbar number. That's kind of a best practice for pocket neighborhoods. And we need to make that scale investable. For modest-sized projects like ours, we tend to have, so software startup-focused investors were too physical. For real estate developers, we're not luxury enough or we're not dense enough. And then bankers are still bewildered, I think, that anybody wants to live this way or in these types of structures. And so there's a real gap there, and what we're left with are kind of oversized, soulless, suburb-like property developments or bootstrapped property side hustles. And neither of those are ideal communities. So we need to find a way to invest in or find investors and to mobilize investment across modest-sized communities. And many of them, this is actually where John Mark is leading the charge there with Future Villages and others that are doing projects like us across the entire bioregion. So hopefully we can band together and form a network that can give that some clout next to the bigger projects or next to maybe the sexier investments.
Yeah, awesome.
I think related to technology, one of the major challenges that we face is finding qualified people, bringing them to the Kootenays, and finding housing for those people to move to Nelson, which is very related to this conversation today. I do realize that. But a couple ways that we've done that. We purchased a residential lot, so we have it as a kind of a short-term period for staff that are moving to town. They can live there, they can find their footing, and then they can be in the community and find housing. Other ways that we've done that is we've brought in specialized expertise from other companies, and in some cases Europe, to train our existing staff pool and to train people that are interested in kind of forward growth in their career and learning continued education for career progression. And then the other way that we were doing that is really to just partner with educational institutions, Selkirk College being one of them. They've developed a great new course recently that is focused on driving innovation in the construction sector that benefits all of the companies here. And we're running really intensive internship programs with the students that can be anywhere from a month to 6 months, but it's creating a career opportunity for emerging individuals to enter the industry.
At Canadian Tiny Homes, we build traditionally with wood frame construction, so we don't use a lot of new technology. However, I did ask AI what the 3 best solutions would be for getting tiny homes, more tiny homes into the Canadian housing market. And it came back instantly with 3 great ideas. The first one was to modify zoning and building codes. The second one was to provide incentive for tiny home builders to develop their tiny homes. And the third idea was to encourage big calm type of developments where there's co-housing and intentional communities. So I think those are all 3 very good ideas.
Absolutely. Those are all really good ideas. And in fact, I think, yeah, it is really just coming down to the fact that we got to get building. And getting building involves you guys partaking in supporting those guys and creating communities. I myself am building a little micro home community in Cooper Creek. It's on 28 acres. We're looking for first residents, investors. You can do it too. It's basically a blueprint that you could take from us. And start your own micro development. So I highly encourage you to do that with any of these providers here that are talking today. So the next question is, so how can automated, modular, and prefabricated systems drive affordability? How do they actually drive affordability, and how important is this? And how can we support this in the Kootenay? So we've touched a little bit about it already, but maybe we can dive a little deeper into this.
All right, so basically I can answer from the context of 3D concrete additive manufacturing. Automation simply is we can reduce the manpower required to construct a house. Walls and structures, like I said, we have the speed at which they can go up, but as well, it's only a 3-man crew required to do this. It's a very quick, very light process as the heavy lifting's done by our robotics. We don't have concrete pumpers on site. There is the work to put the concrete in the mixers, but that's really the end result of it. The rest of it's monitoring software and dealing with that side of it. Speed. When you're not spending a lot of time waiting for the process to be completed, you're saving money, whether it be interest payments for you or the builders. All run of the gamut, time of labor on site, everything. It really brings down the cost there. How can we support this in the Kootenay? It's simple. We need home buyers to start taking leaps. And it's the way when builders see this, they'll be willing to incorporate new technology because there will be the ability to work with it. It's something that needs to be done. And another angle would be architects being able to recommend this tech to their clients and just be able to see potential in this, that when people are going in to get a home designed for themselves, they're getting recommendations that, look, we can do this, it's viable, and it's unique, and we'll give you something that's durable, long-lasting. So I think that's great ways we can see automation bringing the price down, and as well, ways that we can start to adopt it is to have a little confidence to ask about it and look into what are alternatives, what are the alternatives that all these companies are offering, and what can they really do for me? And I would think that would be a good start.
I think the second part of the question about how can we support this in the Kootenays resonated with me. We all know what a special place this is. There's a lot of innovation coming out of the Kootenays, not just in the housing sector, but across the board. I think we have a particle accelerator company in Nelson. We've got the 3D printing. We've got companies like Spearhead and Kalesnikoff that are pushing timber fabrication. But I think continuing that trend and continuing to build thought leadership in the Kootenays and driving innovation from this really regional environment is something that can, in the long term, support the ability to deliver housing at scale and with true affordability here.
From my perspective, it would be mostly just trying to improve efficiency. And also to help getting onto the market would be those three things I mentioned earlier, changing the zoning laws and changing building codes and promoting both developers and developments in the area.
I think we're going to see a big wave of all types of modular housing. Cubes, crates, A-frames, domes, foldables. There's a huge surge of innovation coming in this space, and I think one of the things that'll facilitate it is to literally build an install base for these. For these to become viable housing and at large scale, for them to be viable housing options, they need to be really integrated into the system so that legally, practically, culturally, they're accepted within communities, within the zoning, within the just within the conversation around the types of housing that we need. These are very energy efficient, very innovative, high quality builders that are flocking to this space, as you can tell on this panel, but there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are in Western Canada, actually. So it really is an important thing for us to support the builders so that they get the economies of scale and that they can, implement their innovations.
Absolutely. So we can actually build absolutely everything here locally. We can go back to our roots and build everything with the new technology that we have, with these very capable tiny home builders, with even the material. Like currently your home right now has hundreds of materials. Most of it's toxic. It's from very far away. We have to go back and going back by going forward with some of this new tech. So next question, really, we're just going to dive into the meat of it. Like, how do we actually get hundreds of these communities going? And not just with the homes, but including these core components of food, energy. Energy went out last night, and a good thing it came back on around the night. Or some people in the SLOCAN still don't have their power back on. And in mobility, these are the most expensive things. So how do we get hundreds of these things going? And that's a real clutch of the question, because we're just trickling along, and we're going to unleash, like Steve said, hundreds of new products. But we need you, and how do we actually get this momentum going?
Something Spearhead always does, we're looking to Western Europe. Western Europe is quite far in front of the timber industry in North America, and I think if you go to Switzerland, you go to Germany or Austria, you find these valleys. Each valley has a timber fabricator like Spearhead in it. We're unique. We're working in projects in Hawaii, in New York, and in Florida. The companies in Switzerland are working in the region that they can pretty much see. And I think having that ability to service a regional market there is something that's very unique, and I think is something that we should try to emulate here, is to have more ability to cut down on the greenhouse emissions of shipping to far regions and to try to work regionally. We're operating in an industry where there are constraints to that, but I think in terms of an altruistic vision, it's something we can strive for. Also, these companies in Europe that we have high respect for, they have their own farms. Some of them have their own farms in the fabrication area that feeds the staff. They have staff housing. They provide energy to the community with burning the wood waste from the production. They have restaurants in the fabrication halls, and I think it's a way to really create a dialogue with community and industry, and in a way that broadens everybody's perspective and can achieve the goals of really a sustainable model of construction.
Okay, this is one that I had to give thought to, and it's going to have to come from a personal, because we're coming from a company being robotics based, and we don't do development. We're not the actual people that would put this concrete down in most cases, and we're involved in the software side, the AI side. We're involved with our the robotic systems and the control systems, and it's a full team of engineers that produce our product here in the Kootenays. And what would be needed, like when I look from the outside, on my personal opinion, is Jean-Marc was talking to us about the concept of bringing living labs into the environment, and I loved it. You know, just the concept of being able to get a relaxed permitting, relaxed regulation set of rules for building, and being able to experiment with homes on set plots of land, giving us that freedom to be able to say, okay, we're going to need to adhere to HVAC and health and safety standards on the houses. They're not going to be unsafe, but to be able to say we can relax size requirements, these other issues that hold us back from building, being able to bring that in would be just tremendous to opening the door to alternative techniques and all the businesses here, and kind of let them just be able to do what they do and get people to know, hey, if I go in that, I'll be able to receive my product, and we'll be able to live in our house. And that would be just such a wonderful step to see happen here in the Kootenays, and something I'd look forward to.
I'll just add one more thing to the scale piece. How do we get hundreds of these? I think one thing that we've learned with BigCom over the last few years, and hundreds of conversations with potential tiny homesteaders, is everybody needs skirting and everybody wants decking, and the builders are focused on the house, and the property owners are focused on the property, but there's this hookups piece. And to scale, I think, at the numbers that we're talking about, we really need to work on that interface, I think, between the house and homestead, so that it is truly 4 seasons, that it isn't the weakest link, it's not a campground pedestal. That's something that a number of us are working on as a kind of side project, is how do we level up the pad that these would typically sit on, so that it really becomes a plug-and-play situation.
That's it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That was a wicked panel. I love it. So you can chat with these guys here as we're going into the band, and then we're going to go into panel 2 with Mitchell Scott moderating. So enjoy the music, talk to these guys. Also scan the QR code and give us your thoughts in a thought exchange. There's one way of actually doing this pretty quickly. If we all actually voted online on the stuff that we actually that we actually wanted in life, it would happen. So this is kind of an experiment to do so. I encourage you to use a thought exchange. It's built into Kootenays. We're using all Kootenay tech, and let me know what you think. Okay, we'll be back in a sec. Thanks.
In the cold, cold ground.
All right, thank you so much, Brian Kalbfleisch Trio. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, folks. Thank you, Jean-Marc, for the invite. Cheers.
Let's hear it for the band, everybody. Brian Kalbfleisch. Say it again. Rob Fahie. And Shawn Fisher. Awesome music. Love the ukulele. Okay, so thanks for sticking around. Here we are on our second panel for the housing highlight. I'll be your moderator, Mitchell Scott, one of the principals of Kootenay Mountain Culture Productions. I encourage you to listen to our podcast, the Headwaters podcast. If you haven't listened to it already, we actually have a housing episode coming up in a couple weeks. I have a dream of a house that's in the earth, with glass in the front, rammed earth in the back, grass roof, solarium in the front, so I can wake up and see the tomato I'm going to have for breakfast. Off-grid completely. But it's an expensive dream. That's why it's a dream. But we're going to hear about some people that are making homes like this, and I'm just wondering how we make this more possible for all of us. Imagine communities like Scandinavia with we're out there mowing our grass roofs because the grass is so thick. So here we go. We're going to start. I'm going to introduce each one of our panelists is going to come up. We have quite a diverse group with us: builders, architects, energy consultants, earth ship builders, tiny home builders. So here we go. Who are we going to start with? Let's start with Mr. Rob Stacey from Cover Architecture.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rob, principal at Cover Architecture, and we do a lot of work across all sorts of different sectors and types of buildings. And certainly, we got a big passion in housing and energy retrofits, which we've been trying to get better at, as everyone has. And we're in Nelson, but we do work all across British Columbia, Lower Mainland, and the island, and up north. And really wonderful to be here. So I'll leave it at that. Let the next person introduce himself. Who's up next?
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabe Tyler from North Mountain Construction. Glad to be invited to be here today. North Mountain Construction founded in Nelson about 17 years ago, and we've been building, single-family homes initially to more and more commercial and multifamily projects. We're lucky enough to work with the Kaslo Housing Society on a 10-unit building in town. A lot of our focus lately has been working with the province, BC Housing, and on their institutional side, but great to be here and be a part of trying to, work towards a solution.
Hey there. My name is Nish. I'm an energy advisor based out of Blewett, and I serve the West Kootenays and Kootenay boundary regions. I'll try not to tell you my whole life story, but I'll tell you how I got into this. So I studied building engineering, and I was quite interested in energy efficient buildings and the building science aspect of it all. But when I finished, I was a little bit discouraged, I guess, by the way that things were being done in the field. And I lost a bit of motivation until I actually took a course on how to build airships, actually, in Taos. But then I saw that what the grassroots movement really needed was tradespeople that kind of were able to cater their services to that side of things. And this inspired me to become an electrician. So I got my red seal. I was working out in the field for a bit. And then I really started to miss the building science of my background. So I started a little side hustle doing energy assessments as an energy advisor. And after a little while, I got frustrated with my job, and to be honest, I was a little bit teetering on the edge, and I felt like the universe gave me a bit of a kick. So now I'm doing this full time. It's really been great. I work mostly on existing homes, retrofits, I help people qualify for grants, whether it's through the Greener Homes Federal Program or through Clean BC for HVAC equipment. And I also work on new builds under Shoreline Building Performance. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about my field, and I'm happy that there's a lot of interested people out here. So have a wonderful rest of your evening, and let's get this going, I guess.
Hi, I'm Carlos. I built an earthship. I'm an owner builder. I'm not really like an entrepreneur or anything, but it was a great experience, and I'm hoping to do more of that sort of building. I also have a passion for natural building, so anything with earth, straw, wood, basically anything that takes down the carbon footprint, that's kind of my jam. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad there's interest. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Seth Reedy, and I started Nelson Tiny Houses about 12 years ago. And back then, there was kind of a lot of hype about tiny houses and nobody actually buying any. So I decided to start a company selling them, which maybe wasn't the best idea. But luckily, it wasn't just a fad that came and went really quickly. Yeah, so it's been a long road that's evolved in a lot of ways that I couldn't really predict, but I'm glad that I stuck with it. And mostly, I feel like I started, I've been in construction since I was a kid, and on projects that were quite large. And I just felt that if a 6,000 square foot house is an option, then a 300 square foot house should also be an option. And I didn't really see anybody building those at the time, at least in Canada. Definitely down in California and stuff, there was already a bit of a movement down there. But yeah, luckily now it seems like it's an acceptable concept for a lot of people, and hopefully it just carries on that way and becomes more and more acceptable and embraced by banks and insurance companies and everybody on a government level. Yeah, anyway, I'm really happy to be here.
I'm going to get rid of this thing because we seem to have a height variance issue up here with our panelists. Now we're more flexible. Just hold the mic up to your mouth nice and close so people can really hear what you're saying. Okay, so I just found out from Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc, if you know, is a big tech guy, and he likes AI. He thinks AI is going to solve all our problems in the next little while. And I just found out that my questions were generated by ChatGPT. So I'm going off script. We have a diverse group of panelists here. I am working on a project with Gabe and Cover Architecture in town to build a supportive housing facility in Railtown. And over the last couple of years, I've learned a lot about housing. The people on the street that we see, that we equate with our housing problem, we should all know probably equate to less than 5% of our actual housing crisis. It's a silent, invisible problem that's emerging that we should have been working on 20 years ago. Here in the Kootenays, we are famous for being creative. So I would like to ask you guys, what project are you most proud of that you're involved with, that you're working on right now, that you think is turning the needle on helping to solve our housing crisis? But it can just be something you're really proud of that you're working on currently. Or just even tell us about a project that you're working on right now that you're stoked on. Let's start with you, Rob.
Well, it's obviously Mitch's project, Gerard Station. No, just kidding. I'll talk about a different one. We've been working on a project that was part of a case study put on by the Pembina Institute, a sort of think tank to talk about big issues with the world, I guess, in construction and energy efficiency. And so we did a pilot project in Kamloops, which hasn't been built yet, which was a deep energy retrofit of an existing hotel being converted by BC Housing. So this was part of 5 different projects with 5 different teams throughout the province that were doing comparative studies of different impacts of different solutions. So we all had 5 projects, 5 different solutions, and it was measured against energy efficiency and embodied carbon and operational carbon and buildability. And so it was a really nice swath of different tactics and lessons learned across all these very different people. And we presented to each other, did lots of meetings, and it's amazing. And we're gonna go to tender in a week, and it's gonna become a reality. But, you know, the project was interesting because it underlined the real problem that we have today, which is all of the existing buildings we have, because none of them are really hitting the mark of where we are trying to be with the new buildings that we're building. So, you know, it's a hard lesson as an architect that we can't build our way out of the energy problem that we have, but addressing the existing stock becomes, you know, far, far more important because of its huge impact on energy and the cost of it, because even if it's manageable now, you know, in the years to come, it's not going to be. So, you know, it's one lesson which, you know, it sort of pointed me in a different direction that, you know, I'm not going to get in any architecture magazines or, you know, probably not any awards, but it is the right thing to do is to try and work through, you know, all of the projects, all the buildings that we have that are just bleeding energy into the world and costing us a lot and wrecking the environment in the process. So this little project in Kamloops is the one I'm proud of. So maybe we'll hold that up. Who's next?
There's a couple projects we're really proud of working on right now. One is a homeless shelter we're building in Cranbrook. It was a particularly charged sort of political situation around this shelter where, you know, it wasn't really desired by City Council. And the mayor of Cranbrook actually went door to door protesting against it. And I think it comes down to fundamentally a misunderstanding about the homeless crisis that exists. And as Mitch said, you know, it's largely unseen. And you know, your average homeless person right now in the province is 54 years old. There's a lot of seniors sleeping on couches. There's a lot of young people that are piling in small residences. So that project has been really good for our relationship with BC Housing. And I think there's a couple other projects that we're just starting on. One for the Akam Nation outside of Cranbrook, and one for the Métis Nation in Invermere. And you know, our sort of journey with BC Housing and building multifamily builds actually started here with the Kaslo Housing Society. And it's been tremendously meaningful. You know, some of the projects that we've built in the past would have been for, you know, very wealthy people on the lake. I built one particular, what was called a cabin by the owner. It was a $6 million 10-room cabin with a 60-foot pool in it. That individual spent about 2 weeks a year in that home. You know, it was a very interesting challenge, and it was something we were proud to complete, but it certainly doesn't have the meaning instilled in it that providing accessible units in a village like this, or getting 10 seniors off someone's couch and into a home of their own. So, you know, it's been a really interesting direction to go with our company. And what started as 10 units in Kaslo, we actually have about 140 units on the books for North Mountain to complete in the next year and a half. So it's again, tremendously meaningful. So thank you.
Okay, so I visit lots of homes throughout the week. It's hard for me to pick one specific project. I always get excited when I see natural building projects, even though it's a little bit more work for me to try to figure out how to model it. I also have been lucky to work on a few net zero homes, which I like, I guess, mostly because it's proof that it can be done. But if I can be perfectly honest with you, one of the most exciting things about my job is just getting the homeowner involved with the energy aspect of their homes. It's something that not everybody gives a lot of thought to. And while people may know that more insulation and solar panels and heat pumps can reduce their energy consumption, there's a lot of things that tend to be overlooked. For example, air tightness. And being able to do an energy assessment and showing people the data in a easily digestible form, and even going around the house and showing people like where their leaks are and what they can do about them, it feels very empowering to the homeowner, and it gets people involved in feeling like they can make a difference, and even if it's just in their own home. So, thank you.
I wish I could pick from several projects, but I really only have the one at the moment. It's the house that I am living in. It took me 5 years to build by hand with buckets and shovels and a wheelbarrow. It's an earthen construction. Earthship is kind of a loaded term. It's associated with a company in New Mexico. A lot of the principles apply readily to any kind of construction. But why I love earth construction is a multitude of reasons. One, it's durable. Two, it's sustainable. Three, it's cost effective. It's also very comfortable to live inside of. It's like living in an earthen hug. It regulates temperature extremely effectively, regulates humidity just as well. It's effectively leveraging the second law of thermodynamics. Like when the interior space is hot or wants to be hot, the walls are cool, so the walls absorb all that energy, and then vice versa. In the wintertime, the interior space is trying to be cool, so the walls dump that energy back out into your space. It's kind of a stacking function, you know. And then, on top of that, earthships collect all their own water, which is something that, doesn't look like a problem today, but it's extremely comforting to know that you always have a reliable water source just sitting behind your house. It also recycles all that water. When we take a shower or a bath, that water goes into a planter in the solarium, which then grows the plants, which then subsequently gets pumped into the toilets. So all the water is being used 3 times over. It's just lots of great stacking functions like that. That's pretty much all I got. I'm sorry, I'm just off the cuff here.
Yeah, over the years we've built for a lot of different clientele, and ranging from young couples to single older folks. And I gotta say, lately it's been at least like 80% people in their 70s, mostly single women who want to downsize. And of course, I'm a big believer in downsizing. I think it's uplifting is what we have a shirt that says that. But yeah, like there's too much stuff in people's lives. I'm sure most of you, especially if you have kids, know about the problem with stuff. And if you build a big house, you're guaranteed to put stuff in it. Like, that's just how, some universal law, I think. So yeah, a lot of these older folks are moving onto their kids' property, and so they don't have to pay rent. And the projects that are the most satisfying is when there's still little kids around. So all of a sudden the grandmother, usually in these cases, is there to help out for that generation. Because if you have little kids, you also know that you need help. And most of our grandparents, or the kids' grandparents, are pretty far away. So I'd say that those have been the most satisfying jobs to complete, just seeing that all the generations kind of be put together again. Yeah, but a job is a job, so you don't have to be an older woman for us to build a house for you.
Save money on your house by building it smaller so you don't have to buy as many stupid couches. Okay, we're going to ask one more question. It looks like what's the date again? It's still August. It's like 10 degrees. I have 5 layers on. I'm going to ask another question, one more question here to the group. What, in your experience, is turning the needle on affordability? Because as we all know, it's expensive to build a house. It's expensive to rent a house, rent an apartment. So what do you see as turning the needle down?
So I'll get a bit fluffy on this one. Trust, I think, is really it. And we found it in a lot of real case examples. I mean, basically, as soon as COVID hit, everything changed. Before that, the whole idea for getting cost effectiveness in construction was you take some drawings and get as many quotes as you can, and whoever is the lowest is the one you build, and that's how you manufacture affordability. And it just doesn't work anymore. And so trust is really an important one, because more and more the thing that we advocate for when people come to us and say, I only have this much and I need to build a thing, is we work with trusted builders and trusted engineers and everybody that's part of the project to make sure that they can achieve that goal and still be happy with the product. So it's exactly that. We need to work considerately with each other to try and achieve those goals through that trust. And it's successful. I mean, when we've been able to be open about processes and costs and building techniques and timelines, then it can work towards being a very singular and synthesized solution. So because more often than not, all the answers are readily available. We just have to put them into use and actually act on them. So it's exactly what we've been saying just about for every project when people come to us and have a very specific budget and scope in mind, is working cohesively between all the different disciplines and trades and general contractors to make sure it can be successful. So that's my solution.
All right. Of course, there's the cost of building a home, but there's also the cost of operating your home. So if you can reduce your energy consumption, you can reduce your operating costs. Right now, there are amazing grants available through Clean BC, for example. You can get up to 95% of your insulation costs covered, up to a certain amount, and also heat pumps as well. So lots of people are taking advantage of this, especially if you're on baseboards or electric furnaces and switching the heat pumps. You'll see a huge difference. There's some things like if you don't have a lot of attic insulation, you can get a top up fairly quickly. It takes a few hours for somebody to come in and just pump in some blown in insulation into your attic. So, and if you can get most of that covered through grants, then you're gold. Another thing that I see quite often in older homes is uninsulated basements. So if they're sitting above ground and they're uninsulated, you're losing lots of heat through the walls. And then, of course, as I mentioned already, air tightness is a big one. Sometimes if you're looking at older windows, you might have to get them replaced, but a lot of the time it's also just like cracks in the walls and around window frames and the like.
I think this one is actually a really tough question to answer. I think we've been hit with cost increases in food, in housing, and I think, you know, it's a considerably different place, you know, than 20 years ago when I built my first home. You know, as a 22-year-old kid, I you know, it seemed out of reach, and I salvaged and I milled and I created our first home, and I was really lucky enough to build on a family piece of property that we had. But I know for certain that our costs are higher in the Kootenays than other places in the province. And I don't think, you know, when you're in Kaslo, you know, you're really on a shipping route to Duncan Lake. You're kind of the end of the road. And it's really not particularly affordable for the younger people. And I think these things kind of stack on each other. And so I'm not really sure I have a great solution for affordability. I really like what Nish just said about operating costs. But, you know, in the conversations we have with homeowners, we know for a fact you're going to spend more operating your home than you are going to build it. So we push for every bit of energy efficiency we can. But budget will rule the day. And ultimately, they'll make their decisions based on what they can afford. I think it would be good if we sort of collectively found some repetition in the homes that we're trying to build. Every home seems so customizable and so unique, which is, you know, a nice part about building your own home. But I think this is our biggest question right now, is how we drive these costs down so that there are more younger homeowners. I think it's just generally good for your sort of financial well-being to own homes. And I think it's something that I think for my kids and that I sort of worry about, how they're going to be able to afford that. So wish I had a better answer.
Well, just speaking from a personal context, the way I moved the needle on affordability was to A, build myself, and B, was to use cheaper materials. I mean, earth is effectively dirt cheap. And it also loops back to the cost to operate. Earth, you know, basically I was able to get the entire superstructure of my house, which is roughly 1,800 square feet, up for about $20,000, which I think is pretty good in the scope of things. And my energy bills are pretty low. And, you know, I think building with natural materials is definitely a step in the right direction. Obviously earth, but also straw bale. Hempcrete, I think, has got a lot of promise for that. I mean, they're growing fields and fields of hemp just over the mountains here in the prairies. And lime is also quite cheap. But yeah, on a systemic level, I mean, not everybody can build an earthship, obviously. Again, I don't really have a great solution for that. I think the 3D printers of the world will probably be able to help address that a little bit better at scale, especially when we're printing out of like hempcrete. I think that would bring down the costs of, like, I mean, concrete, I guess, is fairly cheap, but it's kind of expensive on the carbon footprint aspect of things. It's very expensive to produce, if not financially, environmentally. But I think that the tech is probably going to be our way out on that one. Yeah, other than that, just build with cheap materials and try to do as much work as you can by yourself, you know. Labor is expensive.
Yeah, I also wish I knew a good answer to this question. I obviously believe building smaller is better. Use less resources to build and less resources to heat and cool. Try to find local materials if you can, and try to live together, you know, like all these communities where people are trying to live together. Collaborate with your neighbor, and yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. There you go.
Build tiny.
Yeah, build small. Okay, well, I want a big round of applause to our panelists, first panel and second panel, for coming out. Thank you very much for coming. I do want to put a big shit out to, did I just say shit out? Shout out. Shout out to Nish, who does has done all the marketing and graphic materials and stuff for the Kootenay Resilience Festival. And Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc is our colorful man in charge. Teresa at the Langham. We're all volunteering, trying to get this initiative off the ground with big plans for the future, where we can start to connect all of these really cool businesses and individuals around the Kootenays that are working in food, in transportation, housing, and energy, and start to talk online, in person. So this is the start of that. We really appreciate you coming out. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jean-Marc for final closing. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks, Mitch. Kootenay Mountain Culture, bringing it through to its next evolution. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you all here on the live stream. Good. Thank you for being with us tonight. And yeah, I think I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments here and explaining that, hey, we can live with a little bit less right now. We kind of went over the edge over the past few decades in building. And yeah, just as an example, if we took 100 people just from this community and we moved them from $1 million house to something sub $100,000, that opens up $10 million for our collective bank accounts to do more. Like, we could grow our own food, we could have our own energy systems, we could do waste to resource recovery, we could share our mobility, we could do all that stuff just with 100 people. So we need you guys to start with that. And then secondly is perhaps we need to explore some of this automation that's here. And yeah, I'm a little bit biased. Yeah, I'm a tech guy, but if back in '61 we started making cars with robots, your car would be $1 million too if it wasn't for the robot. And it's about time we start looking into automation and new tools that we've had around for decades. So amazing. Thank you so much for these speakers and these companies for being in the Kootenays, because it's super valuable for myself and many others to be here. We're so lucky. So yeah, give it up for you guys for being here. Thank you so much. And All Ears Production for making this happen for the 4th year in a row. Yeah. And to my friend Ernst for bringing these cool plants everywhere all the time. Give it up for Ernst. And our vendors, awesome. Thank you. Feed Your Soul Foods. Next time we got you at the harp and the turret. And Regional District, Erica Bird, she's from the Housing Society. Now, Village Councilor, chat with her about the Housing Society work. And yeah, make sure you support these guys, because it's everything to us and to you. Come back on September 7th. That's 2 weeks. We got mobility, like electric vehicles, flying cars, shared mobility. Kootenay Car Share is going to be here. A bunch of professionals from different fields doing mobility. And make sure you QR code the Thought Exchange to engage. You've engaged today amongst yourselves, but it's really helpful for us to curate this at a deeper level, and that's what we're doing with the Thought Exchange. We're allowing you to kind of get deep into some of this subject matter, and I think next year, you'll be able to vote on everything. Pretty much the entire bioregion can vote on the way they want to live. That's what we're doing right now to start. So thanks very much for your support, and hopefully see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, guys. Okay.